If you've recently gone through a breakup with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, you've probably asked yourself the same question over and over. Should I reach out, or should I give them space? Maybe you've already tried sending another message. Maybe you've explained how much you love them. Maybe you've apologized for everything you could think of. Maybe you've told them you'll change. Or maybe you've done absolutely nothing because you're terrified that one wrong move will push them away forever. And that's what makes an avoidant breakup so confusing. The more you want closeness, the more they seem to want distance. It feels backwards, because when most people lose someone they love, their instinct is to move closer, to talk, to fix things, to reconnect. But with someone who has strong avoidant tendencies, that instinct can sometimes have the opposite effect. So does that mean you should simply disappear? Not exactly, because the answer isn't found in playing hard to get. It's found in understanding why avoidant people respond the way they do in the first place. And once you understand that, their behavior often becomes much less confusing. Before we talk about what to do, we first need to clear up one of the biggest misunderstandings about avoidant attachment. Many people assume an avoidant person doesn't care, that if they asked for space, it must mean they've completely moved on. But human emotions are rarely that simple. Avoidant attachment isn't about a lack of feelings. It's about the way someone manages closeness. For many avoidant individuals, intimacy creates two completely opposite desires at the same time. Part of them wants connection. Another part feels overwhelmed by it. Imagine trying to hold on to something you care about while simultaneously feeling trapped by it. That's an incredibly confusing emotional experience. And because those feelings are uncomfortable, distance can begin to feel like relief. Not because they stopped caring, but because space temporarily reduces the emotional pressure they feel. Now here's where many breakups take a painful turn. When someone asks for space, the other person naturally becomes afraid. They think, if I don't fight for this relationship, I'll lose them. So they reach out more. They send longer messages. They try to explain. They ask for another conversation. They promise they'll do better. They look for reassurance. All of those reactions make sense. They're human. When we're afraid of losing someone we love, our instinct is usually to move toward them. But if the other person already feels emotionally overwhelmed, every additional attempt to reconnect can accidentally increase the very pressure they're trying to escape. It's a little like trying to comfort someone who says they're struggling to breathe by wrapping them in an even tighter hug. Your intention is love, but the experience for them feels different. This is why people often say, the more I chased them, the further away they became. Not because love is wrong, not because caring is unattractive, but because pressure and connection are not the same thing. Someone who feels emotionally crowded doesn't usually experience more communication as reassurance. They experience it as more emotional demand. This leads many people to believe they need to play games. Ignore every message. Pretend they don't care. Post carefully crafted photos on social media to make their ex jealous. Wait exactly 3 weeks before texting. Act cold. Act mysterious. In other words, they stop trying to understand the relationship and start trying to control the outcome. But healthy reconnection rarely grows from manipulation, because even if those tactics temporarily grab someone's attention, they don't solve the underlying reason the relationship struggled in the first place. So if chasing isn't the answer, what is? Ironically, the healthiest first step has very little to do with your ex. It has to do with you. One of the biggest mistakes people make after an avoidant breakup is believing that every day without contact is a day they're losing their chance. But that's often fear talking. When we're heartbroken, urgency feels real. Our brain tells us, if I don't do something today, they'll forget me. If I wait too long, someone else will come along. If I don't explain myself one more time, they'll never understand. Those thoughts create panic. And panic usually leads to impulsive decisions. Here's something worth remembering. You cannot build emotional safety from a place of emotional panic. If every conversation is driven by fear of losing someone, the other person often feels that fear too. And instead of creating closeness, it creates pressure, Real reconnection, if it's going to happen, usually begins when both people have enough emotional space to think clearly instead of simply reacting. That doesn't mean waiting guarantees they'll come back. It doesn't. No one can promise that. Relationships involve two people, and both have free will. But what waiting can do is give both people the opportunity to step out of the emotional intensity that often follows a breakup. It allows emotions to settle. It allows perspective to grow. And perhaps most importantly, it gives you the chance to ask an important question. Am I trying to rebuild a healthy relationship? Or am I trying to stop the pain I'm feeling right now? Those are not always the same thing. Because here's the truth that almost nobody wants to hear after a breakup. The goal shouldn't be to become impossible for your ex to lose. The goal should be to become emotionally healthy enough that, if they do come back, you can build something better than what existed before. And if they don't, you'll still be okay. Ironically, that version of you is often far more attractive than someone desperately trying to convince another person to stay. If you've watched enough videos about getting an avoidant ex back, you've probably heard advice like, go no contact for exactly 30 days. Make them jealous. Post pictures so they think you've moved on. Ignore their messages for a few hours. The internet is full of strategies that promise to make someone miss you. And while some of those behaviors might temporarily get someone's attention, attention is not the same thing as attraction. And attraction is not the same thing as a healthy relationship. If your goal is simply to get a text message, playing games might occasionally work. But if your goal is to rebuild trust and create a relationship that lasts, the foundation has to be much stronger than that. The first thing to understand is that giving someone space only works when it comes from the right place. Many people hear the phrase, give them space, and secretly think, okay, I'll disappear for a while, and then they'll realize what they've lost. But if you're spending every day counting the hours until you can message them again, you're not really giving them space. You're waiting. There's a difference. Real space isn't a tactic. It's respecting another person's boundaries while also allowing yourself room to heal. That distinction matters because people are often better at sensing intention than we realize. When every action is designed to produce a reaction, it stops being about authenticity. Something else happens during that space that's easy to overlook. The emotional intensity of the breakup begins to settle. Right after a breakup, both people are usually reacting more than reflecting. There are hurt feelings, defensiveness, fear, confusion, sometimes even relief. Those emotions can make it difficult to see the relationship clearly. But as time passes, the emotional noise often gets quieter. That's when reflection becomes possible. And reflection, not pressure, is where meaningful change begins. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming they need to convince their ex that they've changed. So they send messages explaining everything they've learned. They promise they'll communicate better. They say they've realized what went wrong. Those words may be sincere, but lasting change is rarely proven through explanation. It's shown through consistent actions over time. Think about it this way. If someone tells you they've become calmer, more patient, or more emotionally secure, you might believe them. But if you actually see those qualities in how they live their life, you don't need convincing. The evidence speaks for itself. The same principle applies after a breakup. This is why focusing on your own growth isn't just good advice because it makes you more attractive. It's valuable because it helps you become healthier regardless of what your ex decides. Maybe you've neglected friendships. Maybe you've stopped pursuing hobbies. Maybe you've tied too much of your identity to the relationship. Breakups have a way of revealing the parts of our lives that need attention. Not because we failed, but because relationships can sometimes become the center of our world without us realizing it. Rebuilding your own life isn't about sending your ex a message. It's about reminding yourself that your identity is bigger than any one relationship. Ironically, people who rediscover that sense of purpose often come across as more emotionally grounded. Not because they're pretending not to care, but because they're no longer relying on one person to define their happiness. Another important thing to understand is that avoidant people don't always process breakups the same way as everyone else. This doesn't mean every avoidant person follows the same timeline. People are individuals, but some people with avoidant tendencies may initially feel relief after creating distance. That relief isn't necessarily happiness. It's often relief from emotional pressure. For a while, the space can feel calming. Only later, after the intensity has faded, do they sometimes begin to reflect on what they've lost. This is one reason people become confused when an ex reaches out weeks or even months later. They assume, if they really cared, they would have contacted me immediately. But emotional processing doesn't look the same for everyone. Some people feel the loss right away. Others don't fully experience it until life becomes quiet again. That doesn't guarantee they'll come back, but it does explain why emotions don't always unfold on the timeline we expect. If your ex ever does reach out, one of the biggest mistakes is trying to pick up exactly where the old relationship ended. It's understandable. You've missed them. You've imagined this moment for weeks or months. You want to talk about everything. You want reassurance. You want answers. But remember, if the relationship is ever going to work again, it can't simply restart. It has to become something new. The problems that existed before won't disappear just because enough time has passed. A second chance only has a real chance if both people are willing to build a healthier version of the relationship than the one that ended.